Hasan Piker, who is known to say provocative things, Hasan loves to say provocative things. I mean, he's a Twitch streamer, okay? There's a lot of edgelord commentary from Twitch streamers, including Hasan. But something that he said that was not at all edgelordy or at all provocative is he said that it is wrong to conflate Zionism and the actions carried out by Israel with the Jewish population, with Judaism, generally speaking. It's a point that we've made on this show. And in fact, he said that it puts our Jewish brothers and sisters in danger by conflating the two, because what it does is it blames Jewish people overall for the crimes against humanity carried out again by Israel. That is literally, and I'm not exaggerating, the least controversial thing Hasan Piker has ever said. In comes Neera Tanden, okay? A supposed Democrat who is plotting night and day on how to help a Republican, Mike Rogers, win a Senate seat in Michigan. So Hasan did some campaigning with Abdul El-Sayed, the Democrat who won the Democratic primary for that Senate seat in Michigan. Scumbags like Neera Tanden can't handle it. And so again, working overtime to use Hasan Piker's commentary, somehow blame Abdul El-Sayed for that commentary, even though in this case, the commentary isn't even controversial or inaccurate. And this is all her effort to destroy his chances of winning that Senate seat and helping Mike Rogers win the Senate seat.
And it's way worse than that. So first, Neera Tanden is a corporate and foreign government sellout. Everybody knows that. She's one of the leading establishment figures, loves corporate corruption. She's notorious for it. And and she also does the disgusting identity politics. Like if anyone accuses Hakeem Jeffries of criticizes him of anything, racist. Jim Clyburn, racist. Now, why? Because they support corporations and foreign governments. So Neera views it as her responsibility to protect the deeply, deeply corrupt. But she does sexist, anti-Semite, all the bag of tricks, right? But if it was just Neera Tanden, yeah, that's to be expected, right? That
she's to be expected, yes.
Yeah, but it is coordinated, guys. And this is what you have to understand and why the establishment's never gonna change and why we're on a direct collision course here. And I don't know what's gonna happen with the country because it is so highly coordinated. Josh Gottheimer also attacking and using the same exact talking point. Hillary Scholten, a so-called Democrat from Michigan, using the same exact talking point. And it doesn't matter, I can keep going and going and going.
Okay, so pause.
Hold on.
Okay.
Dozens of media figures, dozens of politicians, by the way, Democrats, all attacking Democratic candidates because of their connection to Hasan and this disingenuous quote as if Hasan meant to hurt Jews when he was saying, let's protect Jewish Americans. All of them know that that's a lie. All of them have seen the full quote and all of them are lying to you on purpose not to attack Hasan. And Anna, no one knows this better than I do, because remember when I ran for Congress in 2020, I was viciously attacked, totally lied about. It wasn't about me. It was because Bernie Sanders had endorsed me. They do smear by proxy. So then they said, you see, Bernie's guilty, guilty, guilty. And they all did it in unison. CNN, New York Times, LA Times. There is coordinated strategy in this country to destroy any candidate that Israel opposes. And yes, that includes Jewish candidates like Bernie Sanders, who they despised. AIPAC absolutely despises Bernie and Abdul El-Sayed and everyone that Hasan has endorsed. So all of the Democrats, this vote blue no matter who Democrats, are now saying, do not vote for our party. Do not vote for our candidates.
Don't worry, I won't. I think the Democratic establishment is scum. Honestly, I'm so black-pilled on Democrats at this point. I am not invested. I think you guys can tell. I don't really cover the races. I don't care. I don't care because the Democratic Party is so far gone and so delusional. They're a part and parcel of the Republican Party. How are they different? How are they different on the issues that matter? They're not. Okay, they dive into the culture war issues, which honestly I personally hate, the identity politics, which I personally hate. That's what you get from them. You don't get improvements on healthcare. You don't get improvements on immigration. You don't get improvements on anything with the mainstream Democratic Party or the mainstream Republican Party. They're both trash. I want to be very clear about that. But here's what I also can't stand, Cenk. rather than do what I think is the right approach in response to these phony allegations, this is what I would do. I would do a press conference if I were Abdul El-Sayed, and I'd be like, I didn't know that members of the Democratic establishment wanted to accuse Jews in America of being complicit in Israel's crimes against humanity. That's what they think about Jewish people, apparently.
They're anti-Semites.
They're anti-Semites.
They are. We keep saying it's Israel, the government of Israel, and they keep saying, no, it's the Jews, it's the Jews.
Yeah.
Say it's the Jews. Well, we're not gonna say it because we're not anti-Semites like Neera Tanden, Josh Gottheimer. Oh, what? Oh, just because you're Jewish? You did it to Bernie. You're a self-hater, trying to get Jewish people harmed just to protect Israel. And why? Because they're in a cult. They're in a fascist nationalist cult that doesn't have anything to do with Judaism. It has to do with toxic nationalism. Must protect Israel. If they have to destroy Jewish Americans along their way, they don't mind. If they have to smear them, if they have to spread anti-Semitism like Hillary Schulten is and Ken Martin is, and everyone doing these talking points, and everyone in television who's constantly saying, when legitimate critics of Israel say, hey, the problem is this government doing terrible things, they all say, no, it's the Jews, it's the Jews. Jake Tapper, Dana Bash, etc. Jews, Jews. Why do you keep saying it's the Jews? What kind of weirdo self-haters are you? Or what kind of disgusting anti-Semites are you?
Because
we're saying it's not the Jews. What is wrong with you?
It's because they are Zionists and they want to use the Jewish population as human shields. That is what they do. But Abdul El-Sayed, now I have a bone to pick with him, okay? Because
really?
I report the news for a living. And one thing I never want to do is let one media outlet decide for me what the story is or which part of it matters. That's one of the reasons why I use Ground News. It's a website and app that brings reporting from across the political spectrum together in one place. But let me actually show you what that means. I can open basically any story and immediately see the bias distribution of the coverage. I can compare how outlets are writing their headlines, check the factuality ratings of the sources, and even see who owns them. So instead of just reading a headline and moving on, I have context about where that information is coming from and how differently the same story is being presented. But one of my favorite features is the blind spot feed. It specifically surfaces stories that one side of the political spectrum is barely even covering at all, which is incredibly useful if you're trying to get outside of your own media bubble. And you can create custom feeds around the topics you actually care about, so you can personalize what you follow and want to see more of. That's why I genuinely love Ground News. It gives me more control over how I consume the media, and I think that's something all of us could use right now. Go to ground.news/TYT or just scan the QR code to get 40% off the Vantage plan. That's the same plan we use. That's ground.news/TYT. Yeah, I do have a bone to pick with him. Why are you putting out a statement saying my response to Hasan Piker's comment? What are you doing? Here's what you never do. You never cower in the face of the mob. But he did it. He did it. So congratulations. If you don't want the heat that will be directed at you by campaigning with a Twitch streamer, then don't campaign with a Twitch streamer. If you don't want to deal with the heat, then don't do it. But if you're gonna apologize, I mean, look, he didn't apologize in his statement, to be fair, but the opening to his statement made it seem like he's apologizing or he's trying to distance himself from Haas. You wanna distance yourself from Haas, fine, I don't really care. But what that demonstrates is weakness, is pathetic weakness, in my opinion.
All right, well, let me tell you what I would have done, and then you tell me if this makes sense to you or no, it's also weakness, right? What I would have done is what I have done, which is, look, I don't agree with a lot of things Haas says, and we're from two different wings of the Democratic Party. I'm in the populist left, he's DSA, right? And we separate on cultural issues and communism and socialism and all that stuff, right? But anyone attacking Haas on that particular comment, on that specific comment, is lying to you on purpose to destroy Democratic candidates on behalf of Israel. And that is incredibly strange, guys. Let that soak in for a second. It's by definition coordinated. There are dozens of people in politics, in the Democratic Party, and in media using the same exact talking point right now. So they got that talking point from someone, they were told to disseminate it, and they all in unison disseminated. So who told them? Who gave them the talking point? My guess is it was their Israeli handlers.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay, I'm not exaggerating at all. Tom Massey said everyone in Congress has an Israeli handler.
They sure do.
So now they say, oh no, that's conspiratorial. Oh really? Do they have an AIPAC representative they talk to, an Israeli lobby representative? If you ask them, you get them on the record, either they'll lie to you or they'll say, yeah, well, of course. I mean, it's just somebody I talked to from AIPAC, and he always tells me what to say, but it doesn't mean anything. I independently decided I'm gonna follow exactly what he says 100% of the time, right? And they're doing it right now. They're doing it right now. So everyone that is going with that talking point is literally an Israeli asset. So if you want to cry about that, no problem. You want to blame me, no problem. Let's get into that fight. Let's have that national debate. I say that people who are taking talking points from Tel Aviv and then disseminating it here in America, destroying their own party for another country.
They really do excel at that.
Is an asset.
Yeah.
It's not just someone we disagree with, is an Israeli asset, okay? And so they're all over our media and they're all over our politics. Oh no, that's so crazy, really? Well, they give money to 94% of Congress. Why the hell did they give the money? Really, they gave the money for their health. Really, those people vote with them every time.
It's so
not because of the millions of dollars they got. And you're a reporter and you couldn't follow the money. So if you say, hey, I can't tell why Hakeem Jeffries keeps voting with Israel when he's gotten $1.7 million from the Israeli lobby, you're not a reporter, you're an Israeli asset. Because everyone with any common sense knows that's why Hakeem Jeffries is loyally serving Israel. Everyone who has eyes and ears knows that, but our reporters, cable news anchors, all in unison pretend, oh, I can't see anything. I can't hear anything. I'm the dumbest person in the country. Follow the money. Oh, Donald Trump got over $300 million from the Adelsons, which an Israeli family, and then has said in public that he moved our embassy for them, gave them our foreign policy and let them dictate it because of the money he received from the Israeli lobby. That's obvious to every person that knows the facts. But all of our reporters lie in unison. So Anna, it is worse than you're saying. Like, and today,
no, it's more. It's worse. It is.
There is one piece of hope. I'll get to that in a second.
No, there is no hope. There is no political solution.
That's our disagreement.
There is no political solution. You got mealy-mouthed Democratic candidates who pretend like they're fighters, and then they cower at the first sign of trouble from the freaking establishment mob. Okay, I'm sick of it, and they should be called out for it. Again, if you don't want the heat, then don't campaign with a Twitch streamer who says edgy things because he needs to carry an audience and needs to entertain an audience. Like, I just don't understand it.
And it's again worse than you think.
But aside from that, let me just please make my point, okay? When I say that there's no political solution, this is what I mean. The establishment in both parties are not going to allow any change. They think that they can keep the scam going and everything's gonna be okay. The Democratic establishment thinks we could just keep playing the same games we've been playing for literally freaking decades, being the losers that we are who accomplish absolutely nothing for our voters. And then when voters finally realize what I've realized at this point, there is no political solution, what do you think is gonna happen? What do you think is gonna happen when the people don't feel listened to? When they see the disgusting schemes that these freaking, this dinosaur, Neera Tanden, this freaking dinosaur, bitch, what are you doing? Why are you still around? You are a loser. You are a loser. People loathe you. Maybe not your establishment friends, but the people, Democratic voters, loathe you. But she's still here. She's still here, muddying the waters, playing these little games, helping a Republican win a Senate seat in Michigan. So for Democratic voters who don't get it yet, they don't care about you. People like Neera Tanden couldn't care less if Mike Rogers wins that Senate seat. In fact, she would prefer it. And it's just, they're the same. It's the uniparty.
So
they're the same.
Why would you prefer a Republican winning that seat in Michigan?
They're the same. They are the same.
So no, Anna, this is super obvious. They prefer the Republican to win, not just Abdul's seat, but every seat that the Democrats who are opposed to Israel are running in, every single one. Why? Because obviously they're not loyal to the Democratic Party. So who are they loyal to? The donor class. Now they're loyal to big pharma, big oil, defense contractors. That's who Neera Tanden, Ken Martin, Josh Gottheimer, all of them serve loyally. But AIPAC is the mother lode. They were Big Pharma normally number one, but the last 2 election cycles, AIPAC has spent the most money, giving contributions to members of Congress and through the super PACs, a lot more money, dark money, all to Democrats and Republicans who will serve Israel. That's a stone cold fact, and they can't argue with that fact. That's why they never engage in the actual issues. They always go, oh, anti-Semite, make sure you cancel him. Don't ever let him talk again. If he talks again, everyone will realize he's right. So cancel Hasan, cancel Jen, cancel Anna, cancel every politician who's ever touched them. So that way we don't have to actually address the issues. Because on the issues, the American people will find out that we betrayed them. We betrayed Democratic voters. Do you not know that 80% of Democratic voters disapprove of Israel? But yet every one of those Democrats comes out and goes, no, I stand with Israel and I stand against my voters. Why do you stand against your voters? In a democracy, that's an incredibly strange thing to do.
It's 2026 and they're still playing 2016 games.
Exactly.
I mean, and nothing has changed, nothing will change. And I'm sorry, if you are signing up to be an insurgent force within the Democratic Party, you can't cower as soon as the mob comes for you.
Okay.
You don't apologize once the mob comes for you. And that's the thing, I don't care. I'm so sick of it. I'm sick of the apologies. I'm sick of the lies. I'm sick of the establishment. And I'm sick of pretending as though the elections actually matter when every single time the same games get played, the same people get fooled by the stupid tricks that get played. And we find ourselves in the same situation over and over and over again. So I just, nothing's gonna change, Cenk.
No,
nothing's gonna change. Okay, what's gonna happen?
Okay, I'm gonna tell you.
Okay.
But first, I gotta back up what you're saying with 3 different points, get you even angrier, and then I'll come back with hope, okay? So number 1, look, Abdul he was very strong during the primary. He didn't back away from any of this stuff, and that's why he won. So don't tell me it doesn't work. It does work, and don't tell me we can't win, we just won, right? Now, having said that, you're right, I just looked it up. And it's being framed as Abdul El-Sayed backs away from Hasan Piker, withdraws his support, et cetera, et cetera. It makes it look like he's running away from this issue.
It looks weak.
Yeah, and it looks weak, and it looks like he's guilty. Not just that Hasan is guilty, Anna's right, man. There's a lot of things Hasan has said that I don't agree with at all, and that are deeply problematic in my opinion.
Yes,
and it doesn't matter. I don't have to agree with him because he's my nephew, and I don't have to disagree with him because he's my nephew, and I don't have to speak out for him. I don't have to do anything. I'm honest. So where I agree with him, I tell you 100%. Where I disagree with him, I tell you 100%. But this quote was absolutely nothing wrong with it. In fact, he's trying to protect Jewish Americans from being put in harm's way. That's why I'm so disgusted at the obvious lies. So no, Abdul should not have backed away from that. But to be fair to him, I didn't see his comment, so I really can't judge it. But that's a tiny thing. Now and my guess is Abdul's been very strong. He'll probably see it and rally. That's my guess. Okay, put that aside. Now the 2 things that are enraging. Ken Martin, pretending to be a progressive, okay, became the head of the DNC, then immediately does an attack on progressives within the DNC, and immediately starts protecting the establishment and starts saying, oh no, we need corporate PAC money and foreign government money, and we need to drown the Democratic Party in corruption, right? And now today he comes out and he's attacking Abdul El-Sayed. You're the head of the DNC.
I know,
that's the most important swing state. And he's helping the Republicans by doing that AIPAC talking point.
It's so pathetic, guys. The Democratic establishment is scum. They don't care about you. They don't even care about winning elections. Okay, all they care about is appeasing their donors, getting down on their knees, opening their mouths, appeasing their donors. That's all they freaking do.
Okay.
And it's so disgusting how this is playing out. Look, the thing that I can't stand about this, despite my issues with Haas, everyone knows my issues with Haas, what I can't stand is injustice, and I can't stand when I see establishment figures intentionally lie to voters, and that is what's happening here. In this regard, in this specific story, voters are being lied to in an effort for the establishment to appease their donors and hurt Abdul El-Sayed's chances of winning that Senate seat, which could only mean one thing. They're trying to help Mike Rogers, the Republican, win that Senate seat.
It is a coordinated attack on Democratic candidates by the Democratic Party.
They're so disgusting.
And that doesn't make any sense at all. unless you live in an occupied country where the leadership of both parties and the media serve a foreign country. And so guys, you're gonna find out later, like a lot of you already know, but for the people in the establishment, they're gonna be the very last people to find out, right? Or pretend that they're finding out. That no, Israel has had a network in this country for a long, long time, not of Jewish Americans. I've got Jewish family, they didn't do anything, they're not part of any network, neither is your dentist, neither is your plumber, okay? They're not part of any network. But is there a network of a limited number of people who are radical Zionists in this country, that if anyone criticizes Israel, they literally have a strategy, which they have said in public, to destroy their lives, so that everyone knows, don't ever criticize Israel. Do they have a strategy of buying off our politicians? It's brazen, it's obvious. In fact, after every election night, AIPAC puts out a tweet saying, this is another 21 seats we have won for Israel. Well, what happened? I thought you said you didn't control anything or influence anything. They brag about how they control both parties. They say it out loud, they say it in public. And then the media comes in and goes, don't quote them. If you quote them, I'm gonna call you an anti-Semite, and I'm gonna bring in this network of Israeli assets who will try to destroy your career so you could never speak in the media again. And now you say, well, Cenk, how'd you do it? Well, I built my own network. Because if I stayed at MSNBC, I would have been fired immediately. The minute I criticized Israel 1%, I would have been fired immediately. True on CNN, true on Fox News. And all of this coordination is happening by chance? No. Now let me get to the final story that's gonna enrage you, Anna. Recently talked to a candidate, I'm not gonna give away who it is. I'm not gonna give away which state. But this person is now going to be candidate for the Democrats. And the moderate Democrats in that state call her in and say, okay, now you have a position that is not fully supportive of Israel. So we assume you're an anti-Semite. Now we're gonna grill you, and you have to prove to us that you're not a guilty anti-Semite, otherwise we're gonna destroy you, okay? Then not good enough, meeting after meeting. Then she has to meet with Jewish groups. But she didn't say anything about Jews. Okay, fine, but at least they're Jewish Americans and they're part of the community. Then she has to meet with pro-Israel groups.
No, she doesn't have to do a damn thing.
And they say, if you don't apologize to the Israelis, the Democratic Party will destroy you, even though you're a Democratic candidate.
I would take the meeting with the Israelis and tell them exactly what I think of them.
So tell me this isn't coordinated when they do it to every candidate. Tell me it isn't coordinated when they destroy their own candidates on behalf of a lobby. It's outrageous. So Anna, what's the only hope?
There is none.
Number one, we just showed, Anna, we just showed it to you right in front of your eyes. Open up your eyes. You run strong, which is your point, and they all won. They all won their primaries. Everyone who ran strong, including Abdul El-Sayed, won their primaries. The ones who cowered lost. The ones who said, yes, this is my position, and yes, it represents 80% of Democrats. What are you gonna do about it? And the media was like, oh, the Democratic voters are evil anti-Semites, and you should be destroyed. And the Democratic voters said, kiss my ass. Kiss our collective American ass. And they put all of them into the elections, the general elections, and into Congress, because a lot of them are in blue districts. Abdul's in a purple district, that's why he's in a purple state. That's why he's a bigger threat to Israel. That's why they had to get all of their assets in the Democratic Party to attack at the same time against their own candidate. Now, the final piece of hope is, Anna, we just, again, another thing, like it happened right in front of our eyes and ears, right? So Donald Trump came into the Republican Party in 2015, and with no support at all, yes, he was a celebrity, but single-handedly took over the entire Republican Party and remade it in his image. Now, so that doesn't mean that was a positive thing, but it shows you all you gotta do is have one guy win the primary, the presidential primary.
You can't do that. That's it. You can't do that with mealy-mouthed Democratic candidates.
Well, then you find a candidate that is not mealy-mouthed.
Feels impossible.
Surround them with a teammate of Americans who are very strong, and you run against the Democratic Party, against the establishment. You run on behalf of the American people. And what you say, well, if you're gonna run against the Democratic Party, why are you in the Democratic Party? Because I hate the Democratic leadership that is corrupt and against the Democratic voters. Our job is to take the Democratic Party back for the voters. And it is indisputable that we represent them, and they do not. On the issue of Israel, 80% are on our side. By the way, on the issue of paid family leave, 84%. Money out of politics, 93%. Every single issue, Medicare for all, 65% of the country, over 80% of Democratic voters. On every single issue, the populist left is incredibly popular. The establishment left is despised. DSA has its own issues, but they join us on the important economic stuff, not the socialism stuff, but universal health care, higher wages for the average American, etc. If one strong candidate wins this whole thing, and once he's the Democratic leader, all the near attendants can cry and yap and yap. Oh, Israel, we love Israel. Oh, I hope our Democrats lose. I hope Democrats lose. We love Israel. They can yap all they want, but they're gonna yap out in the yard because they're not going to be in the party anymore. They're not gonna have any power at all, and no one cares about you. You're not important. The only thing that props up all of these corrupt Democratic officials
is money.
That's
it. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay. Well, that money gets you a lot of false ads about whatever to try to destroy these candidates. Anyway, we'll see how it plays out.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.